Annie, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to learn more about you and your company and what you do. So, to get us started, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your company and how you got into this business?
I grew up here in Maryland, so it's very nice living and working here now. And I fell into this business like complete fluke, did not ever plan on it or think it was even a career. I was applying to grad school and traveling and doing odd jobs. So nannying, I did a little bit of subbing, and a colleague of my mom's asked me to help him with a move. He knew I was doing different work and I really enjoyed it. The problem solving and figuring out movers and getting his stuff actually together and helping him choose what was coming with him was really fun. And so I worked for him, I worked for a friend of his, and really had enjoyed the flexibility that running my own business or working for myself offered. And so just gave it a try. And I've been doing it for almost 5 years full time now.
2020 and the start of 2021 are not typical years for anybody. We've all been spending a lot more time at home. And I know between me, my husband, and my little one, we've got a ton of clutter building up, and it feels like it's just multiplying before our eyes. So, what are your best strategies for managing that clutter that just sort of happens from your day to day life?
First of all, I do think that, especially when you have kids, that the goal of having no clutter is can be impossible, and that's okay. I will say we all know that it is nice though to know that at a moment's notice, or if you had 10 minutes, say, you could tidy to the point where you feel good having people in your space. Not that much these days having people in our spaces, but let's say you wanted to use a space differently. These days, sometimes we need an office space that we didn't plan on, or you want to do a project with your kids, to know that you can get things away somewhat expediently is a really nice goal to have. There are two main things that are going to help you do that the most. One of those things is, as much as possible, for everything in your space, in your home, to have its own designated home or place. And that way, it doesn't matter what you take out, but then when it's time to clean up, those things, everyone knows where that place is and everything ends up back in that place. And then not only does that make your space feel like you can breathe and like you can use it, but it means that the next time you need it, it's going to be there. And then the other main thing is just to have fewer things. And again, easier said than done, but I cannot stress enough, get stuff out the door. It really is that simple in theory, again, harder in practice.
In the last year or so, I have become a huge fan of my neighborhood buy nothing group, and that's like the godsend for quickly and easily getting things out the door to people who actually want and need them. Sometimes starting is the hardest part. So if you're just standing in, I don't know, your kitchen, your bathroom, in my house, you could pick any number of rooms, and you're just like, I don't even know where to start. This is totally overwhelming. What's your advice for actually getting started?
One thing that I can say, and it's true for a lot of things, is that it is any progress is important and is getting you to a better place. So even if you start small, if you get one pair of shoes out the door or one junk pile, I have a client who calls them clutter bombs. If you find one clutter bomb and spend even 20 minutes going through it and you recycle 5 things, like that is all progress. Don't start with really sentimental things. Like that's just hard. And just like you wouldn't start an exercise routine, like you don't go couch to marathon, that's not going to be successful or feel good. You can exercise your organizing muscle just like anything else, and as it gets stronger, as you get better at letting go of things, knowing what you need to keep, knowing where things can go, like you mentioned, buy nothing. And that's, I think, where a lot of clients really like having an outside organizer's help, is like not wanting to waste, which is really important to me. So also thinking about where things go. But the more you do it, really, like anything else, the better you get at it. But yeah, just starting small and knowing that it really is all progress and it's all getting in a habit.
What are some mistakes that you see people who are getting started with trying to declutter, organize, that just sort of set you up for not finishing or feeling like you haven't completed the task from the start?
I think a common mistake is to try and organize a particular space or a particular room, as opposed to organizing by category. And if you do it by room rather than by category, you often don't know how much you have, or you feel like you finally made progress, and then you walk into the next space and you're like, oh my gosh, like there's still so much of X, and then you're not likely to continue. I live in a house with small 1940s closets. Like some of my clothes are in my daughter's closet, but when I'm thinking about purging, I'm going to get them all together so I really, really know what I have. Another one that I see, especially when people are resolved to get more organized, is they go to Container Store or wherever and buy lots of storage items. Those things definitely have a place and can be important, but it shouldn't be the first step. You really, really, really always want to pare down, get rid of things first. And I'd say 90% of the time when I have clients do that or do it with them or for them, we find out that they don't actually need to purchase anything new.
Most of us are not living alone. We've either lived, we're living with family, we're living with roommates, whoever it may be. And I find this in my own house a lot too, where one of us gets all gung ho on organizing and the other is kind of like, have at it. So how do you sort of get everybody on board and make it sort of a group project so that it's not just falling to one person?
Naturally, most people, whether they are aware of it or not, feel better in a space that isn't cluttered. It doesn't have to be minimalist. Like I do not live in a minimalist home again. And it's, I can't even blame my 2-year-old completely. Like it's just not how we are. We love books. My husband loves sports. Like we have things. It's just that if you are surrounded by it, or if it starts to get in the way of things you want to do or being comfortable in your space, most people do not feel as good in that way. Starting small and then letting people see how good it feels when a space works like it's supposed to, when you can be comfortable in that space because there aren't things everywhere, or you're not being distracted by seeing things that maybe shouldn't be a certain way or you don't love or want to keep. I do think that there are also, at least in my family, some natural consequences have worked well. Certain members of my household who are adults have faced the natural consequences if we've designated a place, for example, their wallet or for their gloves. And if they can't find them when they need them, there's this like, oh, yeah, actually, it is kind of nice to have things have a place and not to have so many of them that you can't find what you need. I think another important thing with roommates or with family is that you're probably already dividing up chores, I hope. It should be a weekly chore, decluttering, downsizing.
2020 really changed the way we all live. So everybody's trying to carve out new office spaces and new, other spaces in their homes that they weren't necessarily trying to carve out before. Do you have any recommendations on how you can create those spaces and really maintain them?
Always, as much as possible, with any organizing project, starting with first, what can I get out the door? If you have a room in your house that you aren't using, then that's a great place to start. But I think realistically, for most of us, I know for me, we don't have an empty room lying around. So really being thoughtful about how you want to use it. And when that comes to this year and having to be flexible, what is essential to that space? So if it's, for example, going to be a school space for your child, what are the things that they need to be successful in their school day? And then anything else, figuring out how you can, again, great if some things can go for good, you weren't using them anyway, but if there are things that you still want to have, that's okay. That's when you're thinking about sort of what needs to be right at hand for my kid versus what can I bin up, put out of the way, or even put, out of this room for now, so that they have space that feels good and open and they can focus, and that there aren't distractions. For multiple family members, maybe you each have a drawer or you each have a shelf, and that's where your items go. And that's sort of nice, because then also when you come back to that space, anybody can make it their own. And psychologically, as well as in terms of use of space, when things are put away, you can be like, okay, I'm done with that part of my day or my week.
If you are taking on a home organizing project, when do you know, let me call Annie because I need help?
For us, being a small company, there's no really project that's too small. We are really in the business of just helping people feel better in a space, whether that's one room or their entire house. Having done this work for a few years now, I work with a lot of clients who are older and really are in that more downsizing phase of their lives, which I didn't plan on, but have really enjoyed. And something I appreciate is a lot of people, I think, at later stages in their life are more aware of what their strengths are and their weaknesses, and really confident in a way that I want to be better at just saying like, hey, like, I'm good at a lot of things, but I know that executive functioning has never been my strong suit. I'm a creative, I'm an ideas person. I'm good at what I do, but this is not my strong suit. I've never been organized, and that's okay. And just like you might hire someone else to do your taxes because that's not your thing, or to make your website. I love that I have a website. I think it's important, but I could own that it was not going to be successful or enjoyable. So I outsourced it to someone who that's what they do, so I could focus on serving clients. I definitely have clients who they're just like, I don't have time right now. They have small children, they have busy careers, maybe they have both. And again, just like other things, a cleaning service or an accountant, sometimes you just know your limits and know that you need help, whether you could physically do it on your own or not. I can be as much or as little involved as folks want. Some folks really want to be right there with you. They just need you there helping get things out the door. And some folks are like, this is the room, I'll see you in 3 hours, do your magic. And I really love both. So that's fun. Like, all the jobs we do are very varied.
So before we go, tell us, where do we find you, online or otherwise? How do we connect with you?
Thank you so much, Carrie. It's been so nice to chat with you. My website is cleanlinesorganizing.com. You can also just email me directly, Annie, ANNIE.cleanlines@gmail.com.